Hello everyone, and welcome back to my sunroom here in East Tennessee on this beautiful June day. The temperatures here in East Tennessee have been about 90 degrees Fahrenheit this week, so it's really hot here. So I wanted to do a video for orchid care for summer. Each season I like to adjust the care for my orchids and stay ahead of those changes so that I'm prepared. I still have some of my Phalaenopsis orchids that are still in bloom, and I'll be showcasing some of them as we go through the video. That's one of the many things I love about them, is that they stay in bloom for so long. They're the stars of my orchid collection. So we're going to start out with Foulsogo Lawrence Tahiti Sunset. And I received so many comments about this phal. My last video that I showcased this orchid. He is definitely one of my favorite orchids. I know I say that about all of them, but this one is definitely a showstopper. And then to the left of him is my Foulsogo Red Poker. And it's got these red purple blooms. They almost appear black sometimes when the sun's not shining. So that's a beautiful little orchid as well. I think the main challenge about growing orchids during the summer is to keep them watered and fertilized enough. I tend to check on them really often in the summer and in the winter when there are extremes in temperatures, because a lot can happen when there are extremes in temperatures. Even with my air conditioner set on 75 degrees, the longer, hotter days in the summer require just more frequent watering with all of my plants. The orchids that are growing in moss definitely require more watering. The moss dries out quicker, and so I check on them really often. You can check to see if they need watering pretty easily. You can lift the pot, and if the pot feels lightweight, they usually need to be watered. But I also like to touch the top of the moss, because if the top of the moss just feels just barely damp, then it's time for it to be watered. I don't let my orchids that are growing in moss, I don't let that moss get completely crispy dry. I like to water them when they're just barely damp to the touch. And my larger phals that are growing in bark can usually go about every 7 days between watering. But in the summertime, I water them every 5 or 6 days. You can lift the pots to see if they're light in weight, and if they are, it means that it's time for you to water them. The trick to this is lift them after you water and drain them, and take a mental note of how heavy they are. And then when they become lighter in weight and you see that there's just no moisture in that pot, then you know that it's time to water them. What I say is, with no moisture in their pot, I actually like to catch them a little bit before then. If the pot is completely dry, then it's probably been too long since I've watered them. And this is my DTPS Brothers Red Caribe. Someone asked me if I stake up my spikes, and I normally do, but this spike got so heavy. I'm going to span down this spike so you can see how many blooms, and I still have some buds on this spike. But this got so heavy that it actually snapped a bamboo stake in two. I was sitting in the den and I was thinking, what was that noise? Went to see, and there was a bamboo stake in the floor. But that is a gorgeous, gorgeous orchid. I've had this one in my collection for 14 years. A really important thing to keep in mind is the quality of water you're using with your orchids. I get so many questions on my channel about water and what type of water I use. I use a reverse osmosis filtration system, and I highly recommend you use filtered water. You can always use a Zero or a Brita pitcher. I've had so much feedback on my channel from growers who use them, and they rave about how much better the health of their orchids is since they've been using a high-quality filtered water. This is one thing that can make a huge difference in the health of your plants. I don't recommend using bottled water. They add minerals to the water to make it taste good to us humans. But our orchids don't need that high mineral content. It's better to use filtered water and then add your nutrients to it. And of course, this is Foul Magic Art that has 30 huge 4-inch blooms. I'm just going to scan up this spike very slowly for you so you can see. I've never seen this one bloom like this prolifically before. I've had it for 5 years and it's just absolutely beautiful. Each one of these blooms is painted slightly differently, which I think makes it very, very charming. Several of you have asked me to just scan up and down this spike, so here you go. That's beautiful magic art. And now let's talk about nutrients. Fertilizing this time of the year is really critical. New leaves and canes are growing during the summer, and you want that new growth to have plenty of nutrients. Well-fertilized orchids grow long, beautiful spikes, which is what we all want. And it starts with great foliage that is healthy and strong. Since I've been fertilizing correctly, it's taken my collection to a whole new level. Your leaves and your canes are where nutrients are stored so that your orchid will have plenty of energy to spike in the fall and bloom for you. And of course, most of my collection blooms in the winter. I have a video called Watch Me Mix Up My Orchid Fertilizer with my orchid recipe that I use. And I'll place that in the description for you, and you can see exactly how I fertilize. This is my go-to video for how I use fertilizers, why I use what I use, how much I use, and also the order that I use them in. And as I close this video, I want to thank you all for watching and also for your friendship. It makes my day when I hear from you all. Even if all you say is just, "Hi, Amy," you all are truly my international orchid family, and I appreciate you all. And I'd love to say the blessing over you, your families, and your orchids. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face towards you and give you peace. Make it a great day, and we'll see you all next time.